Well, hello there, you beautiful, beautiful, amazing, wonderful people. It's Wednesday, baby. It's Wednesday, and you know what Wednesday means? It means it's the midweek hump, and we all love a midweek hump. Again, I'm going back into telling you what day it could possibly be, because you lot requested. Not all of you. Some of you would prefer to know what actual day it is, not what day it might be. But in this video, what we're going to be doing is looking at six mistakes that we are being told that Bryan Kohberger must have made if he did this crime. Because someone reached out to me via email, and it spurned a series of events that led me to having a discussion with Hayden. If you've been around the channel long enough, you'll know who Hayden is. If you've seen the family channel, you'll know who Hayden is. But let's get into it, shall we? Because this was quite interesting. And again, you have to see, especially if you're a guilty, you have to see why we do have to question these things, because it's a little bit crazy, you've got to admit. So let's get into it. I apologise if it's a little bit too small for you to see. I'm not going to explain why, because that boils down to two things: my laziness, because I couldn't be bothered to get the other screen out, and two, because I don't know how to make that bigger. But there you go. So, hi Harsh, please read the thought below. The state's narrative requires a near PhD candidate in criminology to make fantastically stupid mistakes during times of calm, e.g. taking his phone with him, because this guy knows about cloud-based forensics. We know all this. He knows he's going to know multiple things around crime and committing crimes and the thought processes behind it and all the other bits and pieces. Kohberger, and also requires Kohberger to have acted with unimaginable skill during times of chaos. Example, zero biological transfer to his car, which is huge. It's fucking huge. Even though the likes of Steve has said that someone from the FBI, I believe it was, have turned around and said, actually, we didn't expect to find any DNA in the car. In fact, it would have been more weird to have found DNA in the car. Now, I'm going to call bullshit on that straight away. I don't believe that in the slightest. That, before they found nothing, this car was going to be a petri dish of gifts. It was going to be the gift that kept on giving. But lo and behold, it yielded nothing. And now it's a case of, actually, that's normal. It would have been more weird had it have yielded any results. I think the contrast between two extremes of BK, and that each extreme happened during a period in which the other extreme would have been more likely, for instance, egregious mistakes during chaos and skilled actions during calm, would make more sense, which I completely agree. Now, what I do have to do here for a second is just step into the realms of there was a mistake made if it was Bryan Kohberger, in a sense that, did he leave the sheath behind? So I know that people are going to throw that in the mix. So was that a mistake during times of chaos? But what we have got to factor into it is the crime itself. If you strip away the fact that the knife sheath, for some random reason, wasn't attached to him, so it came off, it was there if it was him. Everything else went like chef's kiss, you could say. So it says, if you are continuing to read, thank you. I would want to personally thank you for consistently promoting what is important, innocent until proven guilty. That's a very important distinction. A person can't prove a negative. Example, he probably can't prove he didn't do it. A person can prove a positive. That's why it falls to the state to do so. I would say so much more, but you're busy. I get bent out of shape over wrongful convictions, so I'm pretty passionate about this stuff. Thank you to the person who reached out to me. You'll see I've omitted some of the stuff that was there because I didn't find it relevant to this point. So I responded, right? This is something that I've tried to talk about within videos, and maybe I will do a video that specifically focuses upon this contrasting behaviour ideology. I toyed with the idea of getting my son, who's 11, which we do end up doing in this video. You won't see him, you'll see his answers. To answer some simple questions, such as, if you're going to commit a crime, would you take your phone with you and why? Would you drive your own car to the place where you are going to commit the crime and why? I already know, even asking an 11-year-old child these questions will likely elicit a certain answer that is expected due to simple common sense. Look, we know there are exceptions to the rule, but there are things about Bryan being the perpetrator that we must take into consideration. And these things do include prior knowledge of criminal behaviors, his knowledge of cloud-based forensics, and also things such as his OCD and how they would factor into planning such a crime. People seem to believe that Bryan did it and he got caught because he made the mistake of dropping the sheath, when in actuality, we have learned that if Bryan is indeed the person who did it, and the things that are being suggested as evidence are in fact, then he quite literally, calmly and collectively made every single mistake a criminal could possibly make. In fact, not one single part of this crime was done right. For instance, purchases murder weapon uses his own Amazon account or an account that's connected to him. Now, I asked Hayden, if you were going to commit a murder, would you buy your murder weapon off Amazon? No. Why wouldn't you? He went, because they'd track down where you live. Hayden's 11 years old. 11 years old, and even he knows, don't buy a murder weapon off Amazon. Would you use your own account to replace a murder weapon after the crime? It literally cracked up laughing. They would just track down where you live. That's stupid. That was his literal words. That is stupid, while laughing. I asked, would you take your phone with you on a night that you was going to commit a crime? No, they can track your phone like Mum tracks my phone when I'm up the park. So he is 11 and fully appreciates that his phone gives people the ability to track you, where you are, where you're going. I think that if I would have delved deeper into that, then he'd have probably said, I'd have left my phone at home, so they thought I was home while I was doing the crime. I didn't want to push him too much and give him too many good ideas, do you know what I mean? Because I don't want to make a criminal. Takes a selfie after crime, after celebration, crime in celebration. So remember the selfie that we were being told. So I said, if you'd done a crime, would you take a photograph after you did the crime, going like that? To which he cracked up laughing again, it basically in hysterics, and said, that's stupid. Laughs and say, why would you do that? They would know you did the crime, and was happy about it. Drives your own car not only to the actual building to commit the crime, but detours around the entire estate before making sure to get caught on every camera possible. I just said, hey, if you was going to a crime, would you take your own car? And he went, no way, everyone would see you and know it's your car. He did say about number plates. He said, they'd see your number plate. To which I did say, what if you didn't have a number plate? He then said, does everyone not have a number plate in America? So again, an 11-year-old understanding that your car is likely to get caught on camera or seen by people. Searches crime before crime is even public knowledge. I asked Hayden the same question. If you had done a crime, would you try and Google it to see whether people knew about it before it's public? He then said, he turned around and said, how would you search for something that wasn't public? How do you know about the crime? So again, he was kind of in that, he was like, well, you'd only search for it if you knew about it, which I didn't go into the details of who knew about the crime. You know what I'm talking about. But you get a feel there that an 11-year-old potentially would understand that some of these things that Bryan Kohberger did shouldn't be done. Now, don't get me wrong, there's exceptions to the rule here, isn't there? Like I put in here, this list is not exhaustive, but just goes to show that this list is indicative of knowledge of anything. to do with the crime that even a child would likely deem as stupid. Yet we are supposed to simply accept that this is what happened. This is why I joked on a live recently when they claimed that Bryan's ASD doesn't come with mental impairment, so cannot be considered as a reason to strike the death penalty. My stance is extremely simple, and that is if Bryan Kohberger did do this crime, then there must be mental impairment. Nothing else makes sense. Because I do agree with that. How is it that someone who is a PhD student, doctorate, all of this kind of stuff and specializes in cloud-based forensics, whatever, they have knowledge that a lot of people who would go into a crime do not have, make so many errors? They're supposed to be ASD that would make them hyper-focus on certain things. They've got OCD, which would make them take other things into consideration. He was somebody who would wear gloves for normal tasks. This is something that's been brought up. But seemingly orders a knife off of Amazon that he's going to use in a crime, doesn't handle that with gloves, get his DNA on it, and makes a series of real stupid, horrendous, batshit fucking nuts mistakes in this crime, if it's him. And that's the issue that I have. This isn't about one mistake. This isn't about just dropping the sheath and that's why you got caught. It isn't. It's about a series of huge things that he did, when there is alternatives that make a lot more sense. A much more sense. The guy is fit. He's a runner. He could have parked his car 2 miles away from this property. He's dressed all in black and ran into the property. He could have got a different car. He could have hired a car. And if people turn around and say, well, if you're going to hire a car, you might as well use your own car because they're just looking to hire cars or whatever. But it's still better than driving your own fucking car, innit? It's bewildering to me. It's bewildering that people are willing to accept that somebody with a level of intelligence would make this many errors and not question it at all. Let me know down below what you think, and I'll catch you all tomorrow.